Hey guys, it's JR Place here, and as you can tell by the title and by the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about success or how to find success, how to become successful in life. And to me personally, I think the most important step is always at the beginning, and this important step is finding your starting line. And that is different than, saying just start. I know a lot of people will tell you on the internet here or in life, you just have to start. Just start. Insert Shia LaBeouf meme of just do it. Because it's different because you can't truly start towards success until you find your starting line. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what that means, how to find your starting line, where you might find your starting line, some personal examples of myself, a real world example, what it can mean if you're starting from a starting line that is not yours, and what that can do, and then we'll wrap it up by talking about what the starting line, where your starting line, where that falls, what that could mean for you. And the gameplay here isn't necessarily the best, but I do have it in here as part of the topic here about starting lines, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So, finding your starting line, right? It is not the same as just do it, just start. And the problem with hearing something like that is just start is that, it takes away that initial kind of, finding where you are, because you can't, you know, it's very tough to know how to get to where you're going or where you're going if you don't know where you're starting. And the biggest tip, I think, at the beginning of all of this is that you have to understand that everyone's starting line is different. Your starting line may be ahead of some people, it may be behind some people, it may be somewhere in the middle, and that is completely okay. The most important part is that you find it. And the starting line can be different for a variety of reasons. People are successful at all kinds of different things. There are different career fields, there are different hobbies, there are different sports, there are all sorts of things that people try to be great at to find success in. And the starting lines can be different based on any number of things: prior personal experience, and maybe someone's brain works a little bit differently, and they're a natural learner of, say, personal finances or of the stock market, or maybe as an electrician. It could also be that someone may just have like a natural talent on the basketball court or on a football field or on a soccer field or on a baseball field, or it's just something like that. Sometimes we all have hidden talents that we don't even know that we had, or we have some prior experience growing up. Maybe we heard adults around us talking about a certain subject, or we were close with someone who was very good at a particular topic or field, and by spending that time you absorb some knowledge. And so maybe you're not starting all the way at the bottom of something. Maybe you're starting maybe a little bit past that, or maybe even like the middle of that particular topic or area. But it's very important to understand that it's different for everybody, and that it's okay, and that there are a variety of reasons why it can be different. So I have to talk about, now that we know that it's different for everybody, how do you find yours, right? And the best way to do that is also the hardest way, which is to be honest with yourself. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, usually, people find it difficult to be very honest with themselves. We like to think that we're better than we actually are at a lot of things. There are also some of us who find it difficult to have confidence that we're better in something than we think that we really are. But for most people, we tend to think that we're a little bit better than we actually are. Back in the days of playing Call of Duty here, I used to think I was a lot better than I actually was, because no one wants to admit that they're not so great. They don't want to get ragged on by their friends or stuff like that. But it's very important that you're honest with yourself. That you can tell yourself, hey, I'm not great at this yet, or I have very minimal experience in this area, in this field, in this hobby, in this sport, whatever that it is. I don't have so much natural talent right now. And you have to remind yourself when you say those things that it's okay, because there are all sorts of people that are probably in the same boat or in a very similar boat to you are. Um, Not everyone is naturally talented at something or has a ton of prior experience in something, and that is completely okay. What is not okay is to not be honest with yourself, because when you're not honest with yourself and when you're lying to yourself, you can, exaggerate that line, or you can, push that starting line back, which, I mean, whether it's forwards or backwards, it can very much hurt you. For me, a personal example is, I would say, definitely, I'll start first with starting on YouTube here. I was watching YouTube for a very long time growing up. I think we all were, whether it was watching, OG COD players play Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops, or just like comedy skits, all sorts of different things. Been watching for so long, you start to think, oh, hey, I could do this. This looks, pretty easy. It's not too horrible here. Like, oh, I mean, I play games and I'm like pretty decent, right? Like, I can do this. And so I finally, after wanting to give this a shot for many, many years, I decided to. And so I did a little bit of preliminary research first to kind of just see where, I was at, trying to find my starting line. And I I realized very quickly that my starting line was like way in the back. Sure, I had watched videos, and sure, I was pretty decent at some video games, better in the past than I am now. But uh, when it came to learning about editing, about different editing softwares, even about hooking up my software and hooking up my devices to make things record and stuff, I realized I was just so inexperienced. I had no idea. I think I watched like one introductory video about editing. It was like 10 minutes long. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to watch like a 30-minute breakdown step by step video, because I am just so lost. I don't even know what half of those words are. The person clicked way too fast on anything. And I started to think, oh my God, maybe this just, I shouldn't even try. And so I took a bit of a deep breath and I said, okay, my starting line is way different than some other people's, almost assuredly. But I also know, especially after reading some comments on certain videos or going to some forums, that, I'm not the only one that feels like this. There are plenty of other people who are just starting out as well that definitely feel like their starting line is probably way in the back with mine too. And that's okay, because that's just our starting line. We'll get better as we start working from that line. And I have to say, over the last few months or so, I'm definitely nowhere, absolutely nowhere, I repeat, near a really like great editor. I'm currently right now, I think, learning how to put little like memes and stuff in my videos. I watched one or two videos about that actually just yesterday, and one video made me feel pretty confident, and then another video made me say, you know what, my starting line is probably farther back than I initially thought after the first video there. Um, but I have gotten better at different editing. I've gotten better about understanding where certain buttons are, about using the different softwares and things. I just recently learned how to provide a commentary not live after on the gameplay. I learned that about like a week ago or so, and I'm getting better with it. At least I hope so. I guess you guys will be the judge of that as you listen to me talk, if you're still here at this point in the video. So to wrap that up, you know, I really did some preliminary research and realized that my starting point is way, way far back. And that is okay, because I knew where to start, and I feel like that's giving me a greater foundation to get even better. Another great example as well is the gameplay that I have in front of you here. There's a few, times where like I'm doing real good, or at least like pretty decent, especially for someone who really hasn't played this game on a regular basis since 2012, maybe 2011. But there are certainly plenty of points here where I am just missing every shot. As you just saw right there, I missed like every single shot, and I died. And, I have to be honest with myself that my starting point is nowhere near where it used to be. It's, maybe not at the very, back, but it's, it's hovering around, that more beginning area, that little bit farther back, maybe more towards like the middle on a good day, when I have a good game. And that's okay, because if I'm wanting to work, at it, I now know, like, okay, this is probably where I'm starting at, and this is how I'm going to have to get farther. So, a real world example, which is a really good one, also a sad one because I'm a Giants fan, is that in 2018, the Giants desperately needed to reset, basically at everywhere, minus one or two positions. And instead of, taking a quarterback at number two or trading back, getting a really good offensive lineman and building out the foundation from there, they took a running back. And because they thought their starting line was, well, a lot farther along than it actually was. And that ended up setting their franchise back years and years and years. Do I have some hope now with a new quarterback? Maybe, but I got to see some more. I gotta see something a bit more from that. So had they been honest with themselves, really reflected, and picked a better starting point or their more realistic starting point, who knows where they could be by now if they had taken that offensive lineman or they had taken that quarterback, if they had really, picked and started from their actual spot. They could have won the Super Bowl by now, for all that we know. As a Giants fan, I'm going to say that that's probably a little more satire, but you get what I mean. So it is very important that you be honest with yourself, because if you don't, you could end up exaggerating or pushing that starting line back, and it can very well hurt you, and it can very well set you back for a long time to come, and it could have been easily avoided if, we're just honest with ourselves. And it's hard to do. And it's not easy at first. It's really not. And that's okay too. And lastly, I think one of the hardest parts about being honest with ourselves about where our starting points are is if we think, well, if my starting point is all the way back here, should I even be doing this? Is there even any hope for me? Can I really actually get any better at this? Like, why would I bother trying if I'm all the way back here? And the most important thing that I have to say about that is that your starting point, whether it's all the way in the back or all the way up front, does not mean that you will finish faster. It does not mean that you will, get there last. It just means that your starting point is where it is. You could be all the way in the back, but because you were honest with yourself versus someone who maybe is a little bit ahead of you but thought they were a little farther than they were, you'll get to that success point faster than they will. So I hope you learned something, guys. And if you did, be sure to give it a like, favorite, and subscribe. And let me know how this commentary sounded as compared to the other ones. I feel like I'm getting better, but who knows? Bye, guys.